Hello and welcome to our point3DC Tech Moment. This is our fourth in the series on Bloom Cloud Engine. Today we will focus on the integration of the DotProduct handheld scanner and the Bloom Cloud Engine. My name is Julie Schmidt and I will be the moderator today. I am the support manager at point3D. Just some housekeeping notes for today's webinars. All attendees are muted. If you have any questions, please put them in the question box on the right. We will be answering all the questions at the end of the webinar. We are recording the webinar and everyone will receive a copy as well as it will be on our website. Be social and tweet about our webinar using the hashtags on your screen. Our presenters today are Greg Laws from point3D, Chris Ahern from DotProduct, and Dan Arnold from Bloom. Greg, would you like to take over?
Good day, welcome, and thank you everyone for joining. For those that don't know me, I am the principal at point3D. We are a reality capture technology company providing software, hardware, training, and assistance on the applications from Bloom and others, DotProduct. We're very excited to see these two products working together and hope you're thrilled to see what we're going to show online with live capture and editing point clouds. Dan?
No, I'm muted on my screen. Julie, can you unmute me?
I did. You're on.
Hi, my name's Dan Arnold. I'm with Bloom Technologies, and Greg and I will both be showing you some of the software. I hope you're excited about it. But basically, we built a fairly modern next-generation point cloud editor. It also has a full suite of collaboration, online publishing capabilities, and it's quite an easy-to-use application for editing your point clouds and combining that with your CAD data. So I think Chris is also on the line with us.
Thanks, Dan. Chris Ahern here with DotProduct. We are direct partners with point3D and the makers of the DPI A-8X Handheld 3D scanner. So I'm going to move through a few slides here on our technology and talk a bit about the scanner before I switch over to a live broadcast of my tablet screen as I capture some of our room here in our Boston office. And then we'll pass it off to Greg and Dan for use inside Bloom. So our solution is called the DPI A-8X. It's an instantaneous handheld 3D scanner and a component of 4 parts as you see on the screen here. It's operating off of just an Android tablet with an infrared structured light sensor attached on the back. We have our Phi3D scanning software, which you'll see live and you see here on the screen. That's giving us that green and yellow feedback as we capture the data. We also have our new Da3D Editing software for some quick and easy management of that point cloud data right on Android or on Windows. A couple highlights before we move to the next slide. Oh, sorry, just wanted to mention a couple things about the new design. This is the DPI A-8X versus the DPI A. You notice it's no longer using a handle at the bottom. It has 2 handles on either side for single-handed or two-handed use. The tablet actually just slides right into place via magnets and snaps on with the locking mechanism up top. And it's a much more compact and durable design for use in the field. It also allows for use of a pole extension kit or a light kit at the same time, but it is the same core technology that we'll be displaying today. Okay, next slide. So just to highlight what we're really trying to achieve here with our handheld scanning solution. A truly mobile device where I have complete freedom of motion to walk around the area of interest and collect accurate color 3D data of whatever areas I need to document. Very simple to use, so something that field workers can get up and running with very easily. You can get multiple people in the organization experienced and capable with the device very easily. And it's fully handheld, so no tripod is needed. Again, it's fully mobile to move into different areas and get those really hard to reach corners that you need to capture. The device is inexpensive at approximately $5,000 US for everything, all hardware, tablet, software, all the scanning capabilities you need to get up and running. accurate, producing engineering grade data of small to medium sized spaces and scenes, and real time. So you know what you have in the field, and you can actually see what you captured while you're scanning and then review it in a matter of seconds right on the tablet, which you'll see shortly on my device here. A little bit more on our core technology, which is the Phi3D scanning software. What it's producing is dimensionally accurate 3D and instant reconstruction. So we have full freedom of motion, and it's reconstructing all of that data that's being captured at 30 frames per second, all on the processing power of an Android tablet, and feeding it back to you in a matter of seconds right on the device. We have real-time feedback on the quality of the points we're collecting. So you can see green and yellow, which indicates how well you've captured certain areas, and you can move around and pan to different distances and angles to fill in whatever it is you care about. We have a highly compressed point cloud format, .dp, about 30 to 40 times smaller, if not more, than your standard point cloud formats. And that's what we're using for this Bloom workflow. It makes things very fast on the tablet and also in your post-processing applications. We have the ability to immediately view, measure, set coordinates, and more right on the tablet. And then some other advanced workflows that we've built in optionally. You can append multiple data sets together on the fly, which allows you to capture some larger areas or fill in gaps in your initial scan. And we have some advanced targeting workflows for the highest level of accuracy, whether you want to use survey control points that you have in the field, or specify known distances to reference your data, etc. And on the right side here, just a few highlights of the latest release of Phi3D. So we've improved the tracking, optimization, and depth accuracy of the scanner. We've added integration with a hardware kit called the AccuScale DP, which is a fully automatic, highly accurate scale bar workflow. Integration with Da3D, our editing software on Android. Wireless registration capabilities with CNF laser scanners. The ability to send right to Infi points DP on the tablet for feature extraction. And then some more direct sharing functionality on Android, which is how I'll actually send the data over to Greg on the fly today. A few more images here of our new Da3D editing software. So this is a full screen viewer on Windows or Android. It allows for some more precise measurement from point to point with draggable endpoints. So I can really move from actually every single point to point within a point cloud and get as precise as possible with that measurement. And then I can also now crop and clean my data on the fly, as you see in the bottom left here. We also added the ability to add annotations into your data, take screenshots, and share directly from Da3D. And there's more to come in this software as well. So it's a very quick and easy editing solution for your DP point cloud data. And here we just have a listing of some of the growing applications for our technology today. So we have everything from BIM, as-built documentation, the engineering, construction, industrial facility, and utility world. So a lot of markets that are pretty experienced with 3D, whether it be on the CAD side of things or on the traditional tripod laser scanning side of things. And they're seeing a lot of value in a much more portable and affordable solution that can be quickly deployed to fill in gaps in the data, capture those small mechanical rooms, hard to reach areas, or just capture change over time in a facility. In the second half of the list here, we touch upon some more of the growing applications that more so apply to a situation where it's replacing what might otherwise be photograph, sketchpad, tape measure. So custom design and installation, archaeology and heritage preservation, crime scene forensics and accident mapping, as well as insurance documentation are some of the many growing applications, but it really applies to any situation where you can benefit from easily attained, accurate, scaled 3D data. So with that, we're actually going to switch over to my tablet screen, where I have actually connected to this webinar directly from my Android device. So you should now actually see my tablet screen. There may be a little bit of a delay here, so bear with me. And I'm going to take us through a live capture while connected to the GoToWebinar, all just from this handheld device. So as soon as I hit start mapping here, I'm immediately capturing a color 3D point cloud
All the green and yellow you see is real-time feedback on the quality of the points I'm collecting. So green is great, yellow is good. These targets you see turning orange, those are called April tags. And those are going to automatically improve the accuracy of my scan, tighten it up behind the scenes. So it's an optional workflow, but it's recommended because they don't require any manual measurement or additional input whatsoever. All you have to do there is make sure you loop back over them multiple times in your scan. So I'm going to pan up the wall here. And what we're going to be capturing today is some duct work in the ceiling. So I started with those April tags. I will finish back at them. But otherwise, I'm now going to actually focus on the ceiling duct work for my capture. Fully mobiles walk around the area of interest, and it basically feels like spray painting, turning whatever it is I care about green or at least yellow, and looking at the gaps in real time to see what I still need to fill in. Also looping back over these targets whenever I have the opportunity, and watching it turn orange again. So now I'll get this side from this angle as well. Flag that target. Now that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to slowly pan back to the targets that I started at. Turn them orange again and hit finish mapping. So now in a matter of seconds, this will process right on the tablet and give us an instant preview of all the point cloud data that we just captured. So there we first see the unoptimized data, make sure we got everything we need. Look at it in the photo rendered view or the point cloud view. Looks like a pretty good scan. So the next step is going to be the optimization. So I'm going to move to the optimization tab, pick global optimization, and yes to use the April tags. And this is a post-processing step that is going to improve the overall quality and accuracy of my data. So it's implementing those April tag targets for improved accuracy and loop closure throughout my scan. So that improves the frame-to-frame alignment, which even without the April tags is going to be improved upon during the optimization. It's also going to level the colors throughout my scan, clean up any noise that it recognizes off the bat, and produce your final data set that's ready for save and export on the device. If I had used any other targeting workflows, so if it specifies known distances or known coordinates in my scene with scale bar or hard targeting, that's when this would be implemented as well. And this usually takes, another 1 to 3 minutes, depending on the size of your scan. Ours should be done here in just about another 20, 30 seconds, if not less. And then you'll be able to see that our scan data, that might be a little bit, you'll see that any overlap in our scan, and the unoptimized version will really tighten up and lock into place based on both geometry and the April tags, which are always there to assist as well. And depending on the number of scans you're doing in the field and the size of each scan, this is also optionally something you can bring back to the office as well. We're doing it live now, of course, and it's just taking a few seconds, but you do have that option, which is nice. Now we see our nicely cleaned up data set, fully optimized. again, here in the point cloud view or in our photo rendered view. So the next step here is going to be to reference my data with a coordinate system. So I'm going to set my origin point on the floor by tapping that point, set my z-axis directly up out of the floor by tapping a location on the floor, and my x-axis out of this blue wall. So now we have a coordinate system that makes sense, and we can actually take measurements immediately based off of that. So if I wanted to get the distance from floor to pipe, or floor to ceiling, for example, I could tap measure, new measurement, tap a point on the floor, and a point on the pipe, and that gives me my point-to-point distance, as well as my XYZ in the units that I choose here on the bottom right corner of the screen. So you can actually take those quick measurements and verifications on the fly in the field right after you finish your scan. Next, I want to move to File, Save Scene, and we will save this scene as webinar 726. I want to use my user-defined coordinate system and save scene. This is automatically saving into the DP point cloud format. If you wanted, you could also export to industry standard formats of PTS, PTX, PLY, PTG, or E57, among others coming soon in DotProduct for maximum compatibility. However, with the Bloom workflow and many others, we are now going directly in our compressed DP format. So the next thing I'd like to show here before switching off the tablet screen is a little bit of Da3D. So I can do send scene to, open scene with Da3D. I just remembered before I do that, I actually wanted to get that file already on its way to Greg. So send scene to email or recipient, and we're actually just going to send it right up to Dropbox. So I have a folder that Greg has the link to for point3D. Bloom webinar. I'm adding that file now, so that's on its way up. You just check to make sure that's going. Perfect. Now I'll do send scene to Da3D, and we'll take a look at that as well while that file is on its way over the Wi-Fi connection. So now we see our data set in the full screen viewer Da3D here on Android. Again, in either view mode. We can now take some more precise measurements from point to point with draggable endpoints. So I don't have to be so precise anymore with where I tap, because I actually have the ability to drag from each individual point in my point cloud to the location that I want to measure from. So this is a very nice feature to improve upon the measurement capabilities in 5-3D and snap from point to point in that point cloud view. Next, we've added the quick and easy cropping capability. So if you want to clean up your data, have an even smaller file size before you take it off the tablet or back on your PC, you can select any area that you want to crop out. And clean it up very quickly. So now here's the information that we want to focus on, easily cleaned up and cropped out of Da3D. And then we also have added annotation capabilities. So you can add notes directly into your DP file to be shared with someone else offsite. So if I want to tag this ductwork here, I'll call that duct 1. You can add any detailed information to communicate something that's gone wrong in the field or anything you need to share with someone else off-site, and hit OK. and that saves directly into your compressed file format. You can do as many annotations as you'd like, so I'll tag this light as well. And it actually saves not only the information and title of the notes, but actually the exact 3D location you were in when you made the notes. So whoever you share this with can view it in the free version of Da3D and have a look at those notes the way you were intending them to be shown. Similarly, if you want to just simply take a strategic screenshot to communicate with someone, you can do so right from Da3D. It'll capture just the data, annotation, and measurement information. None of the menu items are captured. And then you can share the data, similar to what we just did with the DP file, or the screenshots directly here from Da3D. If we want to save that, we'll save it directly in its cropped format. And again, this is all functioning here on a touch screen or with a mouse and keyboard. And that pretty much covers the functionality on the scanner. And with that, we're going to pass it off to Greg and Dan, who will take the .dp data and show a little bit of what we can do with it inside Bloom.
Good, thank you. Can you all see my screen? I'm looking for a show of hands from Julie.
Yes.
I can see it.
Great. All right, so we have Bloom Cloud Engine loaded. This is, when I click the icon and start, this is our starting palette. If I come up to the upper left, and this is where we get to our project data. While waiting for Chris's file to show, we're actually going to load. We did a test yesterday. I have one of the files loaded already, so let's just go ahead and load the project. And so when I click on that load, a couple things happen. One of them are object lists. I start to see some information here. So this is, and if that looks familiar, this is the room yesterday. We did a scan, pan around. Some control here. So it tells me what I have in the list. The eyeball allows me to control visibility. And we are connected to AutoCAD at the moment. And we're going to connect right now because I want to bring over what the room size should be. I am in AutoCAD. I go to Bloom Connect, and I'm going to export. We have just a 3D shape of the room in its correct location. And if I go back to Bloom now, I'm going to see that it's receiving data, and we see the shape has come over, and that is the shape right here. So a couple things. I am going to change the color for a little better visibility. I am going to set transparency. And we're going to go to a top-down view. So in the configuration, Chris did a great job of orienting this yesterday, but really we want this to be 90 degrees up. A couple other housekeeping things before we do that. So back to our object list. I'm a big one for organization. I like layers, I like groups, I like folders, so that as I start to bring information in, I have it grouped. So if I click on the scan, I click group, I double click it, and this is going to be my scans data. I had previously brought in the room before. We're going to select both of those, and we are going to say group under, and this now is my room data. One of the nice things about that is I can control visibility of the whole group then, or just individually of the items I want to work with. So let's minimize that for the moment. So we want to, and this is always a challenge, I've scanned, I've oriented it, but it's not in the right location. So what do? We're going to come in, we're going to select the scan. We have a couple ways that we can get this in the right location. So I'm going to do one way first, and that's through transform. So when I select the scan, select the transform command, I see some axes come up, and if I just come in and grab this, I can roughly get it where I want it, but we're actually need to rotate as well. So let's go up to the rotate icon, and I'm going to key in 90, and actually at this point I need to go back and I need to transform up, over, and it's close, but it's not quite close enough. So I'm going to hold down, and this is a new feature, the Alt tab, and I can, with my arrow keys, I can do fine refinement. And what I'm looking at is I actually have a slight rotation. So I'm going to go back to rotate, and I'm just going to tweak the model slightly. Let's get this down along the back wall. And I'm kind of splitting the difference width-wise. So if I escape to get out of the command, spin around. So now I've got my DotProduct data in its correct location. There's another way to do it that's a little simpler, and so we're going to go back to a top view. We are going to mess up what we just did, so I'm going to grab this. I am going to just slide it over a little bit to simulate our starting point, and we're going to now go into one of our registration tools. And so I have the scan still selected, and when I go into matching points, we are going to be able to just grab and move into place. And if I had to do a horizontal rotation, I would be able to do that. Select this registration command, and what it's going to do is it's going to align the cloud automatically to the corner. So it's doing, Dan, if you want to chirp in here, the registration technique, the alignment technique of cloud to surfaces.
Yeah, it's using a ICP algorithm here. So this one is quite a good solution because it's a little bit like a dual representation. You have, you know, a scan model of the room. It's fairly rectangular, and a CAD representation of the room is rectangular. So they're kind of two representations of the same shape. So registration works well here.
Good. So you saw how quickly, you know, painlessly it just snapped it right in place. I'm going to hit escape to get out of the command. I know that we're in the right location, so we're going to turn our room data off and a little bit of cleanup here. So Chris showed us some great tools in Da3D. I'm looking at an unedited version of his model from yesterday, so we're going to show you another way that you can clean up. So we're going to do it two ways. The first is just raw brute force with some very simplistic selection tools. So I can just come in with a fence, and we're going to grab this data, select it, and we're going to just delete it. I missed something down here, delete that, and we're going to come up, grab this data here, and delete that as well. And if I remember, there's a chair sitting in the room, so we're going to come in and same kind of, I can select a square fence, a multi-sided, or kind of a free form, just come in and grab this area. I've got more than just the chair, and this is where I go from select to unselect, and I know that I want to keep the wall, I know I want to keep the floor, and I'm going to spin around and I'm going to get the back wall, take that out of my selection set, and really quickly we're able to then just delete the chair out of the room and get just the room features. So that's one way of editing points, of taking them out of the scene. We don't want to work with them. We still have the points in our original data, so if I ever need to come back to them, they are there. So moving on to another way to work with, to control what I'm looking at, working with, and we're going to go into our model view command. And when I select it, I see a volume box. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select the scan data. I'm going to reset, and what that'll do is it'll resize the box to whatever has been selected. And really what I'm wanting to do at this point is focus in on the ducts up in the ceiling, because with the renovation, they're going to be doing some changes to the ductwork. So I've adjusted the box. I am going to turn on clipping. And what we're going to do is take out a bit of the ceiling, so we're just kind of focusing in on the ductwork. So we have isolated with a view box. Data's still there. I can turn on the full set, or I can toggle it on or off. So we're interested in the circular ductwork. What I want to do is I want to find out where it is. I want geometry for the ductwork, and I want to push it over to AutoCAD. So we are going to come up to our commands at the top, our select, edit, and I'm going to select two different ways of fitting. So the first one, we are going to use the paintbrush. I'm going to expand the diameter of my brush a little bit, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to paint. If you've ever used Photoshop, it's very similar, brush size, similar approach. So we're going to paint either end, and we're going to come down to the fit, and I'm going to fit the cylinder. And so what we've done is look at the diameter on either end and then fit a cylinder through. There's another way to do it. There's always more than one way to skin a cat, and we are going to place a fence on the top one around everything. There was a grill here that I didn't want, so I can come in and change my view. And we're going to use that freeform, and I'm just going to cut this. First, I need to be in my unselect, and then I'm going to just select so that that gets taken out of the, let's try that again. There we go. And presto, I've got our cylinder. So we have now geometry that tells us where that is. I want this in AutoCAD. I want it with my CAD model. We're going to come into Bloom Connect. And at this point, I have the ability to select what I want to bring over. For the time being, I am just going to bring the cylinders. I'm going to say import, and data comes over in an instant. So back to Bloom for a minute. So that was fitting cylinders. In other previous webinars, we've talked about fitting shapes. Let's turn on our full set of point cloud data. So I am going to reset the box. And like the cylinder, I can use my paintbrush to paint on the wall, or I prefer when something like this just to come in and select, get a thin slice through the wall. If I'm extending into the other wall, it doesn't matter, because the algorithm that's going to look at and fit points is going to look at the point normals, and it's going to throw out points that are not along that plane. I've got a lot of points. Chris, when he scanned this, luckily had a lot of detail there. Took a moment. I can control the amount of points that the system is looking at and processing through our point management details, and I can toggle between high res and low res points. But we've already fitted, and if we look at our object list, as I've been creating things, we've been populating the list. So under shapes and objects, let's turn our scans off for a minute. And so we're starting to get the geometry. We know that this was probably a drywall wall, perhaps close to 5 inches. So one of the things I can do is not only just pass over a shape, but we're going to come into that object, and we are going to select the plane. I'm going to apply a thickness to it. I'm going to go in the other direction. Save that, and we're going to come back now into AutoCAD. I'm going to reset my view just to make sure we're not cropping anything. Does it look thinner? There we go. That's the rest of our data. And if we come into AutoCAD now, we are going to I've already got my cylinders. We'll talk about point clouds later. I'll let Dan show that in the example that he's going to show. But if I import, and we have our, coming across to AutoCAD, it's not bringing over my thickness, but I have my planar geometry, and we can see that the walls line up pretty well. So our registration was pretty accurate. I'm going to turn the points on for one last thing here. So great tool for editing, for organizing, manipulating our points. If I come up and let's turn on all our points, escape out of the command.
They're invisible.
Thank you, sir. There we go. Let's go into a perspective view. Escape to get out of the command, and let's come down to share. And it brings up this content sharing, and we're going to create a cloud hosted instance. I can control the resolution that we post to. So if I know that people are going to be looking at it on a cell phone perhaps, then I might do medium. But if we're looking at sharing this on a desktop, then I can bump up the resolution. We're going to, for the sake of time, just click medium. I'm going to say create, and what's going to happen is it's going to give me a preview window that opens up on my other window. Bring it over. And I've got not only my point cloud data, but I also have my geometry hosted.
So this is running in the Chrome browser now.
Yes. So it's in a local Chrome browser, and really I've got a customer that's on the other side of the country who wants to see this, wants to start looking at what we're connecting. So quick upload. And we are, if I go to the actual project on the server, we should see that that data is on its way after I log in. So I had hosted something earlier, and this is what we have just put up. So from Chris collecting, a few minutes to collect, to crop his data, send it over to us, a little bit of editing, and then pushing to the cloud. In under a half hour, you could be from field to in the cloud and sharing with the world. What I'd like to do is switch over to Dan now. We have another real world example, and this comes from one of our trusted partners, Pannoni, a civil engineering company and survey company in the Philadelphia region. And they are now users of the DotProduct and happy users of, and we're looking at one of their early scans. For those that are familiar with the public transportation in Philadelphia, this is a SEPTA station near 30th Street. So take it away, Dan.
All right, clearly I should have went first. Yes, get to show all the neat stuff. I'll try and clean up a few things that we didn't see. For one, those guys are doing a good job of aligning to the coordinate system, and we actually have some other tools that I just want to show. So I'm going to pick some points that represent the floor here, and I'm going to put a plane through that one. And then I'll pick up some points that represent the this wall, and I'll put a plane through there, and maybe some through this plane here as well. So now I have these 3 planes, and I'm going to use another registration tool which will just align to the coordinate system. So I can say this is going to be my top view, this is going to be my front view, this is going to be my right view. And once we have these marked, we're going to use these fitted planes that represent a very good quality surface normal. So now when I look down in my top view, just hide my planes, you'll see I'm aligned in the other axis. So when I look in the front view, I get to see this axis. So there's lots of registrations, point cloud to point cloud to CAD, point cloud to the coordinate system. I'm gonna pick up a couple more things on the publishing side. This is some pretty nice data. So when we go, we can do things like the vertical dimensions, which are vertical projected dimensions. We can do point to point. type dimensioning. We can also do other types of annotations, like let's say we want to use a marker. Now I could put a, just a strange little marker here, and I can give it a title. This is a marker. I can put things like that on. I can also, I've got another file here. Here's a JPEG image, so I can take that JPEG image and stick it on my file. And those will all get pushed up to the cloud. Other things we might want to do is let's add, say, another CAD object. So we've brought in some AutoCAD stuff, but here's some components. This one is an air compressor. But this is important, we can bring this in on this absolute location, model space X000. I don't know where that's going to be. I can put it in at the drop location. So here's my little air compressor. And you can see, well, we need to rotate it around here at 90 degrees. And then I can take that and I can put it anywhere here in my model, right with all my point clouds. So what's unique about Bloom is it's not just a point cloud environment, it's a combined design environment, point cloud environment. And then again, on the sharing side, I think it's really important that, just by pushing a button in, 3 seconds, I can have a model that goes up on the cloud. So here's the JPEG that I attached, here's the marker that I attached, my dimensions, my CAD model. And same kind of thing, we'll just say upload, and we'll send that up to the internet into a user-controlled, access-controlled kind of environment where people can, you can share this, publicly or privately, and it really takes just a couple of seconds to do that. We'll go up to my project. We all have projects now up on the site. So here, I'm sitting on my home internet connection, and we just published that. And I can tell you, we just published it because if you look at the timestamp, 1:16 p.m. here, Eastern Time Zone, that we just pushed that up. So it's literally that quick. From scanning in the field with the DotProduct sensor to having it on the internet can happen in less than a minute. So you can have people out in the field looking at current condition, do a scan, put some markup on it, push it up to the cloud. Somebody anywhere in the world, any internet cafe in the world, can see that data and share it. So Greg, you did a good job. You showed a lot of the fitting. We'll fit pipes and cylinders and planes and crate boxes. We can combine design data from Revit, from AutoCAD, from any 3D system. We can bring in parts library stuff, and we're combining all this with point cloud and CAD objects in a common platform. So with that, I think maybe I can push it back to Julie, and if anybody has maybe some questions. Julie, maybe you're muted.
I am muted.
There, now we hear you.
Thank you so much, Dan.
Yeah, those guys stole my presentation.
There's just so much that you can do in Bloom. Okay, well, we're going to take some questions now. One of them is for Chris. For the DotProduct, what are some of the limitations of the device?
Sure. So it definitely, for one thing, is not necessarily going to replace, a traditional tripod laser scanner. So one limitation would be scale. A typical scan with this device will go up to, the size of a bedroom is usually the way I describe it. It all depends on what you're capturing, how detailed it needs to be. But call it a 20 by 20, 30 by 30 foot area if you're talking about floor, ceiling, wall, full 360 capture. You can link multiple scans together. Typically, we've seen that go up to maybe 10 or 15 scans. And if you have targeting, you could go further. But generally, you wouldn't go any larger than that using this as a standalone tool. So small to medium-sized areas or a few scans linked together. It also should be noted that it's primarily an indoor tool. So it will work great in any indoor environment with decent lighting to take a picture, or even in pitch black with the mounted light kit that you can easily pop right on the top of the scanner. But it will not work in direct sunlight. So we do definitely have customers using it regularly on construction job sites and in daylight situations, but it has to be in the morning, in the evening, on a cloudy day, or in a shaded environment. So as long as you can work around those, and plan accordingly, you can get some outdoor use out of it, but it just should be noted that it won't work in direct sunlight. And the range of the device is, there's actually two different versions. One is the short range version, which will scan from 1 to 6 feet. Obviously, you're not limited to a 6-foot radius because you're fully mobile, but that's designed to capture close range objects in really tight areas. And then the standard unit, the one that I showed today, the DPI A8X, is going to capture from 2 to 12 feet. So it won't get in quite as close for those really tight areas or discrete objects, but it will be much more versatile to capture larger scenes and spaces.
Okay.
Julie, before you move on to your next question, if we had any observers in the audience wondering where that Dropbox file went, can you send me back to sharing the screen?
Sure.
So it took a moment longer, but the file did arrive, and we can either go to the hub and do file import, or it's just as simple as drag and drop, and we'll let that copy and it'll import. And while that's going, why don't you, oh, it's really that quick. So it has imported, it's saving the file. Give it another moment or two, and we should see that on the screen. While that's happening, Julie, another question?
Sure. Another question we had was, what's the difference between the old DPI 8 and the DPI 8X? Is it only the outside structure of it?
Sure. I tried to touch upon this a little bit in one of the slides, but it is the same core technology, although our software is regularly being upgraded, not just when we go from the DPI 8 to the DPI 8X, for example, but with any new software release. And the difference there is the design and the housing. So we have a much sleeker, more compact and durable design. It allows you to use one hand or two hands for maximum stability when you're scanning. It allows use of the light kit and the pull kit at the same time, which was in the past something you couldn't necessarily do. It also allows you to slide your tablet up via the magnets that are now built into the device. And what that does is it exposes the HD camera in your tablet. So if you want to take some HD images in the field right on the same device that you're capturing with and store them with your project, we've now added that capability in. But it is the same tablet and the same sensor, just a much more powerful and durable housing that we've designed for the new release.
Okay. And then Dan, one of the other questions was, how does the pricing for Bloom work? Is the AutoCAD a separate price, or does it come with the standard?
Yes, we do sell the Direct Connect interfaces for Revit and AutoCAD separately from the base software. So we are Autodesk certified developers, and we build these applications. They're pretty high pickup on the number of people that use them, but we are also developing one for SolidWorks at the moment.
Okay. And the different options for the Bloom itself is a network or a single user?
Yeah, the software is on a lease, annual lease. There are 3 levels of the application. So the base level of the application that would allow you to bring in your DotProduct data, register it, annotate it, clean it up, is a $1,200 annual software license.
Okay. And Chris, one other question about the change from the DPI 8 to the DPI 8X. If someone already has the DPI 8, can they upgrade to the X, and how much would that be?
Yes, they can. And let me just pull up the exact cost. I want to make sure I don't say anything wrong here. Yeah, so for a $500 cost, you can send your device back to our facility in Houston, where they will perform the upgrade for you and send it back. So that is, you know, part of the benefit of our device is we don't really want any changes in hardware to limit you, since it is changing so rapidly. So in the past, for example, we've operated on more powerful tablets. There was an upgrade path for that. And then now with a different housing and hardware option, we have the upgrade path for that as well. So just please contact us directly and we can get you a quote for that.
Or you can contact your point3D DotProduct partner and we'll help you out as well. And work with
of course, that's what I meant by us. So yeah, absolutely.
For both the Bloom and the DotProduct, we will help you.
And on that note, I believe we have a special running. If you're interested in both, talk to Julie, send her an email, and we'll give you details on a bundled special for both products.
For the summer, we're running the special, correct.
Now, Greg, one thing I now remember we did not show, but we do make these web models that you see running in the browser, but it's also possible to create a 3D package of the data, including the design data and the point cloud data, upload that to the server so that another user at another location can download that file and open it in the Bloom desktop and do some engineering and design work there.
So what Dan is saying is I would come in, I would select the resolution I'm interested, I would click Desktop Project. I would say Create, and we're going to get that preview first, which of course opens in my other window.
Right.
And
so Greg just made a web object at 8 megabytes, which is really insignificant. And he made a desktop version of the package at 62 megabytes, which is still absolutely nothing in terms of download speed.
And now when we click Upload, it's on its way. We go to the project. And for those that may have gasped when Dan said anyone in an internet cafe anywhere can look at it, they can look at it if we have done this. If we've clicked Share, and we've either said anyone can view it, or we specifically give permission, and you can either give read or edit permission. So at that point, your user would be able to come in and get that data.
Yeah, so this web application is running on a Amazon Web Services server. So all of the security and user access control protocols that we implement on this web application are provided by Amazon AWS.
Okay, and one last question we had is, can you bring multiple DotProduct images in and connect them together on the Bloom?
Yeah, we can bring in multiple scans from DotProduct and register them together. We can compute, the deviation, the quality of the registration. We do things like cut cross sections through the data and put color mud maps and things like that up on the data. So that's quite a common workflow with the DotProduct scanner.
We have an example here on the screen, and this is something that Tom Greaves from DotProduct did, and it was internals of a ship, and so there was multiple sets of DP data as well as ship data overlaid together. Very challenging project just due to the tight space, but it's not only DotProduct data, but we can do the same thing for other types of ZNF, you name it, whatever you have project-wise.
Yeah, we quite regularly use design data, terrestrial scan data, and the DotProduct scan data all together. The ship one is a particularly interesting example because if you sit up there with a terrestrial scanner, there's so many shadow areas because of the ribs and the framing. You get a lot of holes in the data. The DotProduct data, because Tom was walking around handheld, changing his viewpoint, he was able to get really good coverage of the data. So again, multiple tools. right tool for the job. It's quite interesting.
Julie, any more questions?
No, that was all of our questions for today.
As part of our follow-up, what we will do is make available the data that we scanned today, both the point cloud data, DotProduct data, as well as a couple things that we shape fitted. If anyone is interested in, and let's flip back to your screen, Julie, if anyone's interested in a demo trying this out firsthand, you know how to get a hold of us. Simple, sales@point3d.us.com. Go to our website, and we have additional contact information. Julie's going to be sending a follow-up to everyone with a link to the video, and we'd love to hear feedback on how you think you might use this for your projects. Julie?
Okay, so that's basically everything for today. Thank you so much for attending. Thank you, Chris, Dan, and Greg for presenting today. And we watch for your emails with the recording and invites for the future Point3DC Tech Moment webinars. Thank you very much and have a great day.